This is a much needed in the industry to highlight and know how to have experience around textured hair. Textured hair is not going anywhere. It is here. When you have almost 1 billion people that have textured hair, that goes to show you that this is a much needed requirement. Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's segment right here on the Product and Packaging Powerhouse. I am your host and curator, Megan Young Gamble, Chief Project Officer at GLC, your packaging and project execution team, and then also the host of this infamous industry podcast. And I'm so excited that you're here joining us for the conversation. So, welcome to the house. If this is your first time here rocking with us, welcome. If you are a continued listener of ours, thank you so much for the ongoing support. Regardless if this is your first time or your 10th time visiting our platform, please ensure that you are giving us some love, giving us ratings, letting us know what conversations you would love to hear right here on the podcast, because that helps ensure for the type of guests and the content we deliver to ensure that we're helping you all think about how to properly position your brands, things that are coming down the pipeline from technology, innovations, manufacturing. We're seeing AI. And then also, what is the regulations? Because at the end of the day, we want to help ensure that we're thinking about compliance and sustainability in all your pursuits. And so today I'm going to be doing a solo episode, and I wanted to have this one be something more personable to me and what I've experienced as a young black woman to a grown black woman, seeing things in the marketplace and why this is so key. And the reason I wanted this conversation to be very personable is because I am a black woman. And as a black woman, there are certain things that has always been staples from my upbringing and different things that I've seen, especially around beauty world. And the first thing that as one of the first things that we were taught as a young girl, that I was taught as a young girl, is your hair is the crown, and it is representative of who you are, your personality, and all the things. So I've worn my hair in numerous ways, okay? And that is the beauty and the versatility of about the black culture, and also just having textured hair. You can wear it straight, you can wear it curly or kinky, you can wear it in braids, you can wear it in different styles, you can wear it in cornrows, you can have individual box braids, micro braids, and all the different types of braids. You can lock your hair. There's so many different ways to showcase yourself and your personality. And so for this segment, as I shared, this is personal to me, but this is also highlighting the importance of textured hair care and why this is important from a product and a packaging perspective. So I'm going to be talking about it from two different perspectives. One from being behind the scenes, working alongside of the intentional brands that are launching into the marketplace, but then also from a consumer standpoint too, and why this is so profound and why it's so impactful and critical and essential to me as a black woman who has textured hair. And so let's go ahead and get started for today's segment. And so, first thing I want to talk about is why the textured hair care market is so important and why it needs to be talked about. So, from my own upbringing, when I was growing up as a young black girl, I'm originally from Little Rock, Arkansas, Southern girl to my core. I was born in Texas, raised in Arkansas. And as we were growing up, I had a great aunt who always was the go-to person to do all of my family members' hair. She had it was my Aunt Darlene. She had a salon right next door to her house. And I would get the infamous press and curl, okay? Even as a young kid, like everybody who has, especially like in black households, if you have gone to that neighbor, that auntie, the stylist that had those pressing combs that they would put on the stove, or even like using Marcel's and stuff like that, like you understand how important that was, and like, and also how excited you were, but also you were nervous because you didn't want to get your ear burned or get your neck burned too, just from them getting close to the roots and to your scalp to make sure everything was crisp and straight. Okay. And so just thinking about my own experience when Darlene would do my hair as a young kid to get it pressed out and stuff like that, to get ready for school pictures, Easter, Christmas, whatever the festivity and the occasion was. I did, as a kid, I did not understand like why it was so important to have like that neighborhood stylist, but I also did because I just knew that that was the norm growing up, right? And so growing up and then starting to get my hair braided, like I had my first set of braids when I was a young girl, like 3, with beautiful beads at the end, and I was slinging my hair all the way just so I could hear the beads click clack. So even as a young girl, hair was so important because you had to look good for your school pictures. You had to look good when you go to school, and your hair was representative of who you were. And even to now being a grown adult, from a consumer standpoint, my hair is now locked. I've gone through multiple transitions with my hair, from color to cuts to wearing it straight in a relaxed state to wearing it natural and having just a natural silk press to wearing a loose fro to now having locks and wearing braids and wearing weaves. Like, guys, I've been through it all, and so as part of that, as a Black woman and also having textured hair, some of the things that we've seen, evolve into the marketplace is really profound and very impactful because 20, 30 years ago, we didn't have all these textured hair care brands. We didn't have the infrastructure or the training that was in place at the beauty schools to know how to really do our hair before they go into an actual salon once they get their cosmetologist license and such. And so thinking about like my own evolution from Darlene to going to the beauty schools in Little Rock, Arkansas, they were taught how to really work with textured hair because most of the students that were in the cosmetology schools in certain areas of the city of Little Rock were primarily Black or had textured hair, and so they knew how to really work with your hair and how to style it and how to care for it for the different shampoos, because how you shampoo for one type of for textured hair is going to be different than the type of shampoo you use for other types of hair. So growing up, I didn't have an issue with making sure that my hair stayed laid, as we say. But with that, when I started to really talk to other people, especially when I got to college and talking to other women who had textured hair, and to see that they didn't really know how to care for their hair because they either weren't taught or their hair texture was different than other people that may be in their household. They didn't know where to go to in their local area to know how to work with their type of hair. So they had to learn some things. And I remember teaching some of my classmates in college in the dorm like how to do a French braid, and now it's like the essentials for any girl or any woman to do. But how you French braid with textured hair is totally different than how you French braid with someone that may have a type 1, 1B hair type or 2A or what have you. It's different. So with this, textured hair care is so important. And I'm so glad to see how we're going through a paradigm shift of how textured hair care is now being positively received in the marketplace. We're starting to get some training and implementations and starting to see why it's so important. And we're even starting to see certain states implement protocols to ensure that textured hair care is being part of the curriculum at cosmetology schools. And so let me just share a little bit about why the textured hair care market is growing and why it's competitive. And so, in the texture hair care space, 20 years ago, we probably only had 5 brands and it would just be like on one shelf. But now, like if you go to Target, if you go to Walmart, if you go to Sephora, you're starting to see more brands come to market and you're having multiple shelf space of these brands being featured to be readily available to those who do have textured hair. And so, in the textured hair care market, we're seeing a compound annual rate of growth at 5%. And so, just to give context of like the search volume that we're seeing in this space, in 2023, textured hair care was searched on average 40.5%. And it has grown by 20% now in 2024. It's going to continuously grow in the space. If you look at the world's population, over 65% of the world population has textured hair. And women who have textured hair spend more than 78% more on hair products than women with straight hair. And so when you just hear about how many people in the population have have textured hair, which is 65%, and then we spend on average 78% more products, let me add some context as to why that's so profound. So first, 65% of women in the world's population having textured hair goes to show you that there is a critical need to have these products in the marketplace that serve this large and the majority of women who have this type of hair. That's first thing. But secondly, as I've mentioned that I've gone through my own personal evolution of different types of hairstyles and stuff that I've worn, from relaxed hair to silk to natural silk presses, which is unrelaxed state of hair, to wearing a loose fro, to wearing weaves, to wearing braids, to now having locks. Based upon the season, we have to buy different products for the different seasons and the different uses and the different types of styles that we may also have to do. So we will spend more. So just to give context, when I had a loose fro, I'll display a picture below, and I had a loose fro. My loose fro in the summertime for a wash and go will be totally different products and totally different regimen than how my wash and goes or my curly states or my two-strand twist will look in the wintertime. Different products because I need to make sure I retain moisture in the wintertime to help prevent breakage, help prevent dryness and brittleness of my hair, especially just having natural textured hair, more kinky hair. So those were things that were so important. And growing up, if we didn't get our hair pressed, we had to figure out which products were best suitable for us. And it wasn't the textured hair care section when we would go to Walmart or go to the local beauty supply store. It would be whatever is there that will work. Now, we did have some growing up, like Dudley's, like for some Black owned brands. Like I remember Dudley's, because one of my stylists used it. In Little Rock, we used to have a big beauty brand called IsoPlus. So IsoPlus, I used to say would be like a sister to Bronner Brothers, with their products, and Bronner Brothers had their own product line as well. So those were like the three main Black brands that really catered to textured hair when I was growing up as a kid. Now we use some good blue magic. So those of you who had those pressing curls, and your great auntie, your auntie, the neighbor, whoever down the street would press your hair, you know that about the blue magic. Okay. So it is a staple for us growing up, but we didn't have all the variety and the different options and the different type of products for the time of year or the type of styles we're doing for our hair, etc. Now, like we didn't have that back 20 years ago like we do now. And so seeing this textured hair care space really evolve is something that's really big. And as part of that, when, I mentioned how I went to college and I would have to teach, some of my classmates, like how to do a French braid or how our hair textures are different. And we cannot just do a shampoo condition. We have to do shampoo, condition, then a leave-in treatment. Then we have to braid down our hair because if we don't, then it's going to get really big because of the cuticle swelling up for our hair, and it is more prone to tangles. So I had to educate my classmates about it. But as part of that, depending upon where you're geographically located, you may not have the beauty schools that knew how to properly do your hair or style your hair, because there wasn't some of the states did not have an actual curriculum around textured hair in place. And so I want to share with you all, because I talked about this a while ago, where we started to see the Textured Education Collective, which is an alliance of professional hair industry leaders that came together to help influence cosmetology state boards and help implement certain requirements and curriculums. It was officially passed in New Jersey back in 2023. And now we're starting to see California mandate that cosmetology schools really teach how to properly style your hair and more training around textured hair space. And so this is something that's really important because if you think about the geographical areas that certain people may be, I lived in Little Rock, but if I would go down to Texas in Dallas and go to a beauty school to try to get my hair done and stuff like that, some of them may not know how to work with my textured hair at that time. Or when I came to Georgia, there's certain beauty schools I was going to when I was in college that was within the area or close by, because as a college student you broke, you don't really have a lot of money to or discretionary income to travel and such, so you would try to go to the local places, but just to have, just so you don't have to wash your hair all the time. And some of those stylists did not know how to properly style my hair. So as part of that, some of the facts that the Texture Education Collective has shared previously is that 75% of stylists want more training in how to style textured and coily hair. 66% of Black, Indigenous, people of color, high fashion models have had to work with a hairstylist unexperienced with their hair texture. And then I've already mentioned how 65% of the world's consumer population does have textured hair. So that's almost equivalent to 1 billion people. So when you think about this is something that is not only a want, but is a need. When you have this many people in the world that have textured hair, but yet there's so many people that are hairstylists that don't know how to style our type of hair, that's a problem. And then you start thinking about diversity and inclusion and things of that sort as part of this space. And it's like, why are we just now getting to this space in 2023, 2024, and beyond? Now, don't get me wrong, I'm grateful that certain things are being implemented. However, people who've had textured hair have been around much longer than 20 years and 30 years, like I talked about, from my own experience. But I think it's something that is, slowly starting to change, and we're seeing the paradigm shift because California is now one of those new states that is requiring the inclusion of textured hair education in the state's cosmetology licensing requirements and curriculum, because inclusivity of beauty is needed and it's non-negotiable. Every single stylist that is getting trained and is going through state boards, regardless of where you're geographically located, should understand how to work with textured hair. Black women are not the only ones that have textured hair. Caucasian women have, some of them have textured hair. Indian, textured hair. Biracial, textured hair. There's so many different women and people here in the world that have textured hair that needs this training. And some of them need this training because they may not have been taught in their own households how to properly manage their hair, how to properly take care of their hair in their natural state, because the hair textures may be different amongst different family members in the household. So you need that training in the beauty schools to not only go and feel good about yourself and beautify yourself, but also it may be a teaching moment for those who don't have it at home. So this is something very profound. And that's why I said this is very close to the heart for me, because I am a Black woman. I have textured hair. I have gone through the evolution of textured hair. I have my own hair story and hair journey, from the press and curl at my Aunt Darlene's house to now having locks. It is still in the texture state, so different products that I use and such. And so now with us seeing the paradigm shift and the enormous amount of brands that are in the market. Previously you only had Pantene, Head and Shoulders, Trust Me, VO5. Who else was there 20 years ago? Paul Mitchell. We used to use Paul Mitchell quite a bit when I was growing up because of the tea tree and cooling sensation. I still love me a good Paul Mitchell shampoo, tea tree shampoo. But, now if you think about like all the brands that are coming to the market, and even like celebrity owned brands, like Beyonce has Sacred, Rihanna has Fenty hair, as part of her Fenty beauty brand. You have Mael, you have Curls, you have the Main Choice, and then you have startup brands that are coming to market to offer their products. So guys, there's so many brands that are now coming to market and have been in the market to specifically cater to the 65% of the world population that has textured hair. Is much needed. And that goes to show you that why is it that we have more brands coming to market, but yet we're not having more states implement into their curriculum and into their requirements for getting obtaining the cosmetology and barber license of how to properly train and how to style textured hair. So this is where we're starting to really have this paradigm shift and to really highlight the importance of textured hair care in the market and why there is so many brands that are coming to market to specifically help with that. Because I'll be honest, when I used prior brands like Redken, they were good for when I had color, but they were not good for moisturization of my kinky coily hair. And I remember at that time I was using Kiki coily and Talid Wajid, when I was going through that stage. And then my products evolved to using Design Essentials, to then using Shea Moisture, to then using Mael. I've used the Main Choice. Even recently, I tried Sacred. I've tried Fenty Hair. So I've tried a lot of products because it is a lot of experimentation with textured hair just to see which combination of products work well, what type of products work well for your hair based upon the season, because how you style your hair in the summertime is different than how you may style your hair in the wintertime. So I'm sharing all this not only from my own personal story, but also behind the scenes. Like, because when I work with the brands specifically in the hair care space for beauty, and I'm hearing the conversations and I'm hearing who they're targeting and such, and I'm like, okay, that's great. But how can we kind of narrow in on those who who look who look like me, who identify myself or who has textured hair like me? That's important because how you talk about how to use a product for textured hair is totally different than how you utilize a product for straight hair. They may have same benefits, moisturization, hydration, etc., but the messaging is different. And so, even with me being a packaging specialist and also a project manager working alongside of the brands, and thinking about how long it takes for development and how long it takes, to create the packaging and the functionality of it, that's the big thing. Because having textured hair, our arms are tired. And by the time we're going to evacuate the products out of the packaging, a lot of times we have to muscle up the strength to do so because it takes a lot of work to really wash, condition, straighten if you're straightening, or to have your curls be popping, whatever it is, and however style you wear your hair, as being having textured hair, it's all different. And we're tired. Okay. Wash days are a full work day. And having certain products and knowing which products work best for your textured hair can really make or break the experience. And I'll be honest, like I locked my hair because the products that I was using when I first went natural with the fro end up changing by the time, but right before I locked my hair and had a loose fro, like 8 years later. And so I got personally tired of the wash days of pre-poo my hair, then shampoo, then condition, then I need to style, I need to moisturize it, or as we call the lock method. So you have a leave-in, or oil and conditioner, or the LCO, whichever method it was, depend upon the season. Then I need to style my hair. So it'll be in two strand twists or be in flexi rods or whatever the case may be. Then I need to send it to the dryer. That will be a whole day. And I sometimes will spend longer on my hair than a normal work day. So I transitioned to locks to have a little bit more time freedom, from doing my hair, but I still have to wash and condition my hair. I still style my hair because I'll put flexi rods in for it to be curly and stuff. I have color tips on my locks, so I have to make sure that the color is still preserved to not have breakage. I don't want to have dryness. So I still have to maintain my hair even in a lock state, but I still have to have the right products in place too. And I still have to have the stylist know and properly educate me on how to maintain my health and keep hair retention and help make sure my hair is properly moisturized. But if you don't have the stylist learning that as part of their curriculum in the schools, then how are they going to connect to their consumers? So I'm sharing all this to say I'm really excited about some of the waves that we're seeing respectfully in the textured hair space. How you have the Texture Education Coalition that's powered by Professional Beauty Association, how you're having intentional conglomerates come together as part of this collective to help drive the narrative and help change the narrative of textured hair and what that looks like. Having states such as New Jersey and California actually mandate that cosmetology and barber schools implement textured hair into the curriculum, and also requirement before stylists actually obtain their state board licenses. These things should have been in place, in my opinion, previously. But it's good to see that we're now having more inclusivity around this space, because 65% of the population has textured hair. So why are we not already there? But here we are. So I'm just being honest, but here we are, and we are still seeing some strides. There are some ways to go. But to that point, I want to give a shout out to all the brands who have put their passion, their sweat, their tears, their equity into building and creating textured hair brands. Thank you. This space is much needed. You saw the need prior to what is happening in the marketplace and the mandates that are in place, respectfully, for cosmetology schools. I think this is a great opportunity for some of y'all to go and pitch these schools in these states, because I think California has over 200 cosmetology schools. I'm just saying, to see how y'all can think outside the box and get y'all products into a different market. But I just want to say thank you all for being intentional in creating the space and creating the products to help serve and solve those pain points that we textured hair care people would experience. And the common thing was dryness. We want ease of use for the products that we utilize, not having to buy a whole 20 products just to use in one season. So thank you all to what you're doing and the hard work and the effort and the continuous effort that you put forth with your formulations, making sure that they're intentional for the audience you serve, making sure the packaging is functional. That's the biggest thing I always look at from a consumer standpoint, working behind the scenes with my own company. And also just making sure that, as your brand is growing, you're continuously serving and keeping that core message in place for your audience as well. So thank you all so much for what you do. Continue to apply pressure onto these states, onto these cosmetology schools, because it is much needed. We have some states that have mandated, but we still have more states to go in transparency. And it should not just be, in certain areas of the city, like I share with my own experience in Little Rock, where there was predominantly Black people that were actually the students at the beauty schools that knew how to work with me, and really all hair textures. They really knew how to work with all hair textures, don't get me wrong. But the relatability was there because they had textured hair, they knew how to work with textured hair, and they were taught how to work with textured hair because of the demographic within the area as well. So we need more of that to be highlighted, because when I moved to Georgia and in the area I was living in, so I was in downtown Atlanta and Kennesaw, Georgia, which is about 25 miles north of Metro Atlanta. There wasn't anybody to really serve my hair, especially in Kennesaw, Georgia. So this is a much needed in the industry to highlight and know how to have experience around textured hair. Textured hair is not going anywhere. It is here. When you have almost 1 billion people that have textured hair, that goes to show you that this is a much needed requirement and mandate that should have been in place, but now it needs to be mandated across more states, into more schools and curriculums and practices every day. So I appreciate y'all for listening and allowing me to share my own personal story, and also the intersection of how I see it from behind the scenes, not only from a consumer lens, but also from a service provider lens, working with beauty brands. And some of the things I think about and question, when I'm working alongside the brands, because I am their core audience in most cases. So I offer a different perspective, and I'm like, well, have you thought about this? Who are you talking to? I'm very transparent, I'm very direct, and I'm like, who are you talking to in your communications? I'm not saying that you can't talk to everybody, it depends upon who you are, but specifically for a texture hair person, I don't want to hear the same messaging as somebody that has straight hair, being honest. So the messaging has to be on point to resonate with our pain points. There may be some overarching dryness, hydration, moisturization, etc., but how you hydrate textured hair and moisturize textured hair is different than straight hair. So just offering a different perspective from behind the scenes. So, anyways, if you would like to learn more about how California has mandated textured hair care education into cosmetology, and also to learn more about the TEC, which is the Texture Education Collective powered by PBA, Professional Beauty Association, you can check down in the show notes below. And I talk a little bit about my journey of how, I went from the Preston girl at my Under Arlene's house to living in Little Rock. So I'll share a prior episode where I talk more extensively about my own experience, especially from a consumer standpoint, down in the show notes for you all. So that way you just have a little bit more context. But I think I shared enough of my story here on this episode to have a better understanding of why this is so important and why this is so personal to me, because I am a textured hair owner, a person who has always had textured hair. My mom has textured hair. My sisters have textured hair. My grandmother, my aunt, my great aunties, my Aunt Darlene, my whole maternal lineage is Black. So we all have had some type of textured hair, different types, different grades, but we've all had textured hair. So that's all I know. And when I have my daughter, she will have textured hair. So this is why it's so important to me, to just talk about this and the transparency of it and why are we just getting here? But at the end of the day, we're here and we're going to see more things evolve and come. So I will keep y'all abreast on different things and different news around this textured hair industry and what we're going to be seeing in the upcoming months and years ahead. So make sure you do hit that subscribe button, hit that follow button, so you don't miss an episode when I do go live and share more about what's happening respectfully in the textured hair space. And if you have textured hair, I would love to hear from you. Send me an email, drop a link in the comments of what are some things that you've seen within the textured hair care space that has been positive and negative. Have you had to acquire a lot of products to help tame your hair or just to help your hair be properly styled? Or what are some of your top brands? Let me know. Let's have a conversation down in the comments. I would love to hear from you and talk to you about this space because at the end of the day, we need to have more open dialogue about textured hair. Okay. So guys, thank you so much for tuning into today's segment. Make sure you do follow, like, and subscribe to our platforms. So that way you don't miss an episode once we go live. And then also check out some of our prior podcast episodes as well. That's talking more specifically on some industry related news, highlights, and what's coming down the pipeline, similar to this episode. So thank y'all so much, and I'll talk to you soon.